What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Talking Elite Fitness. I'm Sean Woodland, joined by Lauren Khalil. Lauren, how are you?
I am fantastic. I am
Fantastic.
getting ready. Yeah, because you know what? In about a week, I am going to be in warm weather without snow. So I'm happy
There you go.
or almost happy.
Congratulations. And of course, featuring Tommy Marquez. Tommy, how are you?
I am good. I am caffeinated and not well rested. So
How's the dad brain today?
it's good. I'll be honest. But despite that, we had a banner day in the Marquez household as far as excursions out of the house, testing those waters. So
Okay.
yeah,
Ooh.
which
So what'd you do?
we went out. We went up to Santa Cruz and we spent the day. Like wife and I both had appointments and just like pretty much spent the entire day out.
Was Miles
We
with
got
you?
to, yes, he was. Miles
Oh,
got
good.
to
Okay.
meet friends,
Nice.
meet some friends.
Aw.
It was in a variety of other environments. Um, he's a performer, man. He gets around other people. He said he's like all sweet and calm and
Oh, yeah.
giggly and like I was like, you dog,
Mm-hmm.
you dog.
What they do. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I wish my baby was like this. And you're like, he's not like this all the time. He's a demon-born hellspawn sometimes.
He,
But in
you
front of
don't
you,
understand,
he's
lady.
like cherub.
This kid's a liar.
Exactly. He's a filthy human being. Don't believe anything he tells you or does. Well, I'm glad you guys had a day out. Congratulations. It's
Yep.
been the weather's been pretty nice over here. So
It has been. It's been
you know,
beautiful.
sunny and 60 degrees. So,
Oh, that sounds lovely.
been great. Okay, we have a lot to talk about today. We are going to take the back half of the show and focus on the team division at Wadapalooza that's coming up here soon, kind of the official, unofficial kickoff of the season. But we're going to talk about the teams because I think that's always been the hallmark of the Wadapalooza Miami competition, that 3-person team competition. So really looking forward to diving into that. And going to do that a little bit differently. Got a lot to talk about as far as news is concerned. We got open registration. We know where the games are going to be. We have locations for World Fitness Project events. We have rulebook stuff to talk about. So all kinds of juicy little tidbits to chew on here. But before we do that, we want to thank our main sponsor for today, and that is Reebok. And of course, the Nano X5 is coming out soon, January 24th. It's the 15th iteration. Tommy, I was thinking about this. I still remember the first one.
Yeah.
That yellow one that they were selling in Carson. And I thought it was like the coolest thing I've ever seen, that someone would actually make a shoe dedicated to CrossFit. And here we are in the 15th iteration. The Nano X5 is the most comfortable, breathable, and stable Nano yet. Have you guys tried them out yet?
Oh, yeah. I've worked out in mine and they're
I haven't had
great.
a chance yet. Are they? Okay, I can't wait.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where every time they make a new one, I think they could never be better. Like they should just retire now and just leave them as is. And every year they somehow, at least for me, have gotten better and I enjoy them more.
I should try them next because I still have my ones. I saved them.
Yeah. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't have mine. I got
Those
They
should
had
go in
that.
a shoe case as like a historical reference to something.
Mhm.
Remember the 5s they made with the American flag sole and the
Yep.
I have both versions still in the shoebox. Haven't
Oh,
worn them.
Wow.
You never know. But
15.
I know
The
it's
shoe,
crazy.
the Nano can almost drive.
Yeah, it's built on it can get its permit on a new dual response EVA foam platform combined with the new comfort collar system. The Nano X5 provides 360 degrees of comfort and stability. And if you are going to be in Miami for Wadapalooza, you could possibly score yourself a free pair of Nano X5s. Lauren, how can the good people out there do that?
Oh, yes. You might be wondering. And last year, you saw us host a little happy hour before Wadapalooza began. Well, this time we're like, we're going to extend the party and really end the celebration at the close of competition after the award ceremony. We are all going to go to Sola, Miami for a nice little happy hour, and 20 pairs of the new Nano X5 will be given away along with some fun merch. There's going to be fun cocktails. It's going to be a time, and you don't want
And,
to miss that.
and if you go up to Lauren and use the code word Shooter McGavin, she is contractually obligated to take a shot with you. A shot of
Really?
your choosing. You get to
That's
pick.
Oh man,
Oh, man, because
It's
I
written.
didn't drink last year because I'm like, "Okay, this is the beginning to the kickoff. I gotta behave."
now you're
But now, like, we're
I may
gonna
have just killed
we
Lauren.
might even we might put some vodka into the Shirley Temple at the end of the weekend. Who
so.
knows?
Here's what you do: okay. This is what I think people should do. Go up to Lauren, say Shooter
Oh, no.
McGavin if you're at the happy hour. Take a shot with her and put it on social media. Like tag us, and let's
I
see
wanna see that. Bring
how
the
many
pressure.
videos of Lauren doing shots
A
we can
tally counter.
get
Oh,
on social
God.
media.
Oh.
Oh,
I'm like,
I never said no to a good bet.
there you go.
12
Yeah,
hours later.
let's just see what we can do. Make sure you get that on social media, and make sure you check out the new Nano X5 January 24th. Like I said, free pair on the line on at happy hour at Wadapalooza. So check it out. Okay, let's get into what we want to talk about today. Well, it's official. CrossFit Games are being held in Albany, New York. Now we've had regionals there in the past. I have never been to Albany. I know that this news got had mixed reactions. I
Beautiful
don't.
upstate New York.
Albany, New York is not. Like I said, never been. But this is what I will say. I remember when Madison, Wisconsin got announced, and it was kind of a And I remember going in 2017 because we had an open announcement there, going to the Alliant Energy Center when it was empty and walking around that place going, how are we going to do this? How are they going to pull this off? The arena was a little bit outdated. It was a empty parking lot and some corrals for livestock shows. And I think that turned out pretty well. I'm not kidding you. Like that's all it was. And it turned out great. The city embraced it. I think one cool thing about Madison is that it was small enough to where like you knew the games were going on. Restaurants had special menus. There were billboards. There was stuff at hotels. That's stuff that you did not get at Carson outside of the main hotel that we had in the Marriott there. Once you got outside of that, you had no idea unless you went to Chipotle after the games one night and you had 40 athletes out the door because it was the only place open to eat. So never been to Albany, don't know what it's like, but for those of you who are like, just give it a chance. All right, let's just see what happens here because this arena looks, I think it's newer. It's got a 15,000 seating capacity, which is in line with what they had in Fort Worth, a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Lauren, what do you're a New Yorker. Tell us
You're an
about
upstate New Yorker.
Albany.
I'm 2 hours from Albany.
Ooh. Albany, got it.
Yes, Albany. Good old Albany, New York. So here's the thing. I'm going to give some tidbits. So first of all, as much as I shit on living in Syracuse, New York, the one time that you would want to come to this region of the world would be either summer or fall. So in August, it actually is quite nice. It's a little bit humid here. It can be, but nothing compared to, I mean, we were in Texas last year. Like, this isn't Florida humidity or Texas humidity. So the weather will actually probably be pretty nice. Albany, there isn't a ton to do. If people are coming and looking for things to do outside of the games, Saratoga Springs, where they have horse races, is only about
I know
30
that.
minutes from there. So
There
you
you go.
definitely, that is something you absolutely should do before or after. So you'll have to look at the schedule. There's also like they're not too far from the Finger Lakes. There's some really beautiful hiking. It's a nice time of year. Like I said, I'm 2 hours from there. So if anybody wants to come check out Syracuse, New York first, let me
You
know.
couldn't even say that with a straight face.
Yeah.
Let me know if that's your
No.
journey. I could take you to some really good places to eat, get a good workout in. Again, we can go paddleboarding, kayaking. It's a great time. For people who are looking to get a one-way or not a one-way,
Tourism board pay you for this little spot.
A
no,
one-way
but
ticket. What are you gonna kill them? They're not
I'm
gonna
sorry,
go home.
not a one-way flight. Not I was gonna say a nonstop flight. You ain't gonna
There
get
you go.
that, even though it's an international airport. You
Yeah,
guys
there's one
here,
connector that goes to Canada.
Yes, you hear the drama that I talk about living out of Syracuse. The Syracuse airport, no different than the Albany airport. You're going to have a connection somewhere. If you're coming from Europe, a lot of your connections will probably be in Washington, D.C., also LaGuardia, JFK, Newark. Honestly, like if you're a games athlete or somebody who's coming for an extended stay, it might even be a better idea to fly into Boston, stay there, and then rent a car and drive about 4 hours.
Mm,
That might be a better
Like
option.
4 hours from
Um,
Boston. Hmm.
okay.
about 4 hours from Boston, give or take, maybe a little
Yeah.
Well, let
shorter.
me ask you this: is there anywhere that comes to mind, top of your mind, knowing that area, where you could have like an offsite outdoor event? Because
I
again,
don't
I know nothing about Albany.
I don't know it that well. I used to do dance competitions in Albany,
Mm,
like, in the city area, and I can't think top of mind, but again, it's Albany might be similar to Madison in the sense that there are a lot of hiking trails and things to do outside.
mhm.
Mm.
So I could see that as a potential option. Um,
Hmm.
but I don't know it well enough to know like, oh, there's this county park 10 minutes from the venue or
Got
something like
it.
that.
Okay. Well, we
I mean,
will see.
yeah.
Go ahead, Tommy.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, this one kind of caught me by surprise, but it was kind of known that they weren't going to go back to Fort Worth after everything that transpired. So it it's just I don't know. It's tough to get to, and like you said, the athletes are going to have an interesting time prepping. I mean, what the temperature I assume is pretty enjoyable at that point.
High 70s,
Perfect.
maybe mid 80s on like a hotter day.
Easy.
Nice.
It's all over the news if it were to get to 90, it's like, "Stay indoors, it's so hot." So,
Yeah.
you don't really need to worry about that.
Send out the gumshoe reporter to fry an egg on your dashboard. Like all the local.
Done
I
that
love this.
before.
Yeah, I know you have.
I've
Everyone's.
sat inside a car with a temperature
Yeah,
gauge to
this is
see
how hot
what
it is.
happens
Did they make you
what
do
happens
it
if you leave
throughout
your
the news?
baby in there.
Let's check back in with Lauren Khalil live
Yeah,
in
it's
her
so cringe.
Nissan Jetta. She's been there for
Oh my
15
god.
minutes. Lauren, what's the temperature? Right? That's what they do.
That was me. That
Yeah,
was
no, I
my
know.
life.
That's what they do, and that is riveting local television.
Mhm,
Uh,
good times.
anyway, I look. You're gonna find something wrong with wherever they have it, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's that's just give it. Let's just see. I don't know if this is a multi-year
Yeah.
deal. I have no clue. But that wasn't one where I went, oh man, it was. Huh.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm
I
driving,
mean,
so I'm gonna show up with more
Oh
bags than
God,
normal,
you're gonna
guys.
rent a U-Haul.
I might drive
yeah.
up in a U-Haul.
I mean, it's just hard not to draw comparisons to the other places, though. Like, Madison, we may have been like, this kind of stinks,
But turned
but
out well. Like, I thought it
yeah,
turned out well overall.
I
but
love Madison.
there were elements of Madison as a town that
College town.
led you to believe that it was going to be good, right? Like anyone we had talked to is like, oh, Madison is an awesome city in the summer.
Yeah.
And it has a great, like, the Capitol Square is a great, like, downtown area. It's super outdoorsy. Like, there's a lot to do there. And, you know,
The downtown area is not like Madison and Albany, I can tell you that.
people
Well, look,
who had spent,
Madison gave us the most.
Siena is there, and that's like a good college or university,
All
but
right, you could,
uh,
but
and I
Madison
was,
gave like the most iconic offsite event in the Capitol. Like I don't know how
yeah.
you're going to beat that as far as an offsite event goes, and who
Well,
knows if they're even going to do them in Albany.
and there's infrastructure there for the university in Madison because they also host games where 100 plus thousand people come in for football games at Camp Randall every other weekend. So there was some stuff there. I just don't know. Like, I don't know enough about Albany as a city. And the handful of people that I've talked to are just kind of like, meh,
Yeah,
it's a place, you know?
I feel like
yeah.
I kind of felt like the equivalent was if it was coming to California, because obviously Tommy and I know a lot more about cities in California. It's like the 2025 CrossFit Games coming to Stockton.
You're like,
Yeah,
ooh,
well,
ooh.
close to some stuff.
Yeah.
The
Anyway.
best chicken quesadilla of my life was in Albany,
All right. Well, there
so
you go.
there's that.
Come for the
Pack it up, boys. We're done here.
quesadilla.
It was in some Irish pub right downtown, so there you
That's
go.
that's
Wait,
a
you had a quesadilla at an Irish pub?
that's
I
a
did,
sentence I don't
yeah.
think has ever been uttered in the history of humankind. That's like
You're
there's a
welcome.
Reddit thread I think called "That's a New Sentence,"
That is an
I had
insane.
the best quesadilla of my life at an Irish pub in Albany, New York.
It was made by a Romanian guy. Like, what? All right. Well, enough about
Oh.
Albany. We've got a lot to do before we even get there, but you know, we will see what they have planned.
Yeah.
Here's one thing that happened: open registration live. People can start signing up now for the Worldwide Open, and that's going to kind of lead us into the next thing that we wanted to talk about. I believe, if I'm reading my card here correctly, yes, that the rule book also got released. Now there's a lot in there. There's a lot of talk about grips and things that have been banned. If you're a competitor or anybody, please just read it and know what the rules are, because
Yeah.
you don't want to be disqualified for something stupid like you had the wrong grips on or something like that. Outlines all the new ways to qualify, the new season structure, in-person things. But one thing that's getting the most attention is the way that the prize money is going to work here. And now the way I understand it is that prize money is tied, and this is throughout the entirety of the season, is tied to open registration. And our good friend Mike Halpin and company over at the Morning Chalk Up, they're going to have an article coming out soon, kind of breaking down, different scenarios of what positions and what competitions get paid what amount based on registration. So first thing, how many do we have? We had a little more than 400,000, 300,000 last year. Was it three?
Yeah, about
366.
Okay,
I
so
think.
not bad.
342,000 and change last year.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you think there is any chance they match or exceed that number in 2025?
My gut says no chance.
Okay, so what best case scenario? What 300,000?
Yeah, I mean,
That's the
best
number
case
they
scenario.
used.
Best case scenario for me, just kind of thinking about the temperature of the room and just where it seems the general sentiment of the sport regarding to CrossFit's ability to shepherd that. 2022's number of 293. If they're in that ballpark, maybe touching 3, I would imagine they would be stoked.
Yeah. Well,
it would be a year-over-year drop of like just under 13%.
Mm-hmm.
And to have someone die in your sport,
mm-hmm.
and and have the fiscal impact in the biggest earning opportunity touch point of your season be minus 13% and be in line with where you were just a couple of years ago. I think the bean counters would be pretty happy for that.
I think they would sign up for that right now. If you said 300,000 people, to be like, where do I sign?
I just think that's optimistic.
Okay. Well, let's just use that let's be optimistic. Best case scenario, 300,000 people. That means that, like as you said, Tommy, that'd be about a 13% decrease from last year. And again, this is all going to be out in the article that the Morning Chalk Up is going to have. And Mike Halpin did some really cool work here that they were nice enough to share with us before it goes out. So let's start with the Open. So that would mean that for the individuals, the total prize purse for the Open would be $150,000, right? Because you're getting your total Open revenue with 300,000 people would be $6 million, and then they split that. CrossFit LLC takes 3, and then the prize pool gets 3. So they split that. So you got the individuals. The prize purse would be $100,000. Am I reading that right? Or did someone just change it? No, someone just changed it.
Somebody just changed it. Yeah.
Sorry. I didn't.
Sorry.
Are you the blobfish? Anonymous blobfish?
It'd be $150,000. I'm like, did I read that wrong all of a sudden? So here's the good news. If you're someone at the top of the sport and you win 25.1, first place, $6,200, $6,250, which is that's more than traditionally they've given out to first place.
It's almost, yeah. It's like,
because it used to be based on year.
2.8 times whatever, Yeah.
Second would get 3,700, 3,750, and then third would get 2,500. All right. So if you're at the top and you win an event in the Open, got a nice little payday. All right. So then we go to online semifinals where the total prize purse this is again based on 300,000 people signing up for the Open and all paying $90,000 for online semifinals. So first place we get 11,250. Second we get 5,400. Third 4,950. Fourth 4,500. Fifth 4,050. And you'd pay out all the way down to 11th place. And 11th we get 1,350. Right.
Yeah.
Um,
So as it stands right now, didn't Dave say in one of his weekend reviews that everyone who qualified was going to get paid out
for the Open?
For semifinals? But isn't
Does
it
he mean qualified for the I think he means qualified for the games, right?
Well, I want to say he said something about there's going to be a semifinals payout for the in affiliate semifinal for everyone that qualifies from there. And based on the payout structure and the amount of events that they have qualifying for people in person, that's not necessarily true unless they're like hiding another event that we haven't talked about.
That's the speculation because that there might be another in-person qualifying event, which would then mean that 1 through 11 in online semifinals.
Yeah.
That's all qualifying spots. So that could be the case.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you mention the podium overall total for the Open as well?
And I was going to go back to that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I jumped ahead. Let's go back to, so overall, after 3 weeks, top people in the Open, if you finish first place overall, men and women, $18,750. Not bad. That's pretty good. Plus the money that you're going to win for winning an event, right? Yeah. Second place is 11,250 and third is 7,500. So hopefully everybody's following there. Then we get to the games because the in-person semifinals, that's all up to the events themselves, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So then we get to the games. And based on 300,000 people signing up for the Open, first place doesn't change a whole lot based on what we used to have. I think it's like right around 375,000 and change for the first place at the games. First place now would make $367,000 at $1,500. Okay. So still, that's a good payday for if you win. Second goes to 73,500 and third is 58,800. And they pay out all the way down to 20th. So 21st through 30th, nothing. Okay. So there is a scenario in which, you qualify like through, let's say you go to an in-person semifinal, qualify. You didn't qualify through online, but you qualify in person and then you finish 21st at the games. You're not getting paid a dime. So it looks to me like, looking at these numbers, and again, this will be out on the morning chalk up, that they have focused the prize money that they do have towards the top of the standings. And it's the middle that has been hollowed out a little bit. Still getting paid, but not what it used to be.
Yeah, while there are some positives from this in terms of money being spread around at other areas of the season, that we just mentioned with the Open, I think what ultimately it costs in terms of being able to give people earning opportunities at the games, which is the highest point of our sport, that's where I think it's kind of a miss, right? If you win the Open, worldwide for men or women, you earn more money from that than the 7th place finisher at the games.
Well, they did, Dave did say the Open's going to matter again.
That it matters as far as what qualifying. It shouldn't matter more financially for them, the 7th fittest person on earth. Like, that's silly. You're going to tell me that someone that went through the entire season process, qualified at multiple stages, jumped through multiple hoops, and then showed up at the ultimate test of fitness and performed, within the top fraction of a percent, was in the top 7 worldwide in their sport, potentially for someone who hits home runs in the online in-person format, is going to earn more than them for 3 workouts.
Fair. Yeah, I see what you're going. That's a good point.
I mean, it's like Yonakowski won the Open last year, didn't make the games. I mean, granted, he's a perennial games athlete, so he has proven himself in that regard. But he walked just from that prize money alone, he walked away with more than what Ricky Garrard earned at the games last year.
You're basing that on this year.
Yeah.
If we
So
applied this
if we
and
transfer, yes, that seems off a little bit.
Mhm.
Now, my hope is that they kind of balance that out a little bit. Um, my my biggest thing is how did we get to this spot where like the payouts being what they are, CrossFit determined that. There are more earning opportunities. That's cool. The person who wins is going to see a significant financial
Mhm.
windfall, which is cool. You're the best. You should get that. But I, for me, I have issues that are a couple layers behind that in terms of like what brought us to this point, right? Because ultimately now it is tasked with the community to fund the prize purse, this prize purse structure as it exists. And why and how did we get here? Well, one, because traditionally the prize purse is funded by the title sponsor.
Mhm.
And as far as we know, there isn't one, and there probably isn't going to be one at the level that we're used to. And so CrossFit then passed the buck to everybody else. And that is a byproduct of their own inability to be a good partner with someone at the level that makes the title sponsorship attractive, right?
Mhm.
And that issue also extends just like you could even extrapolate that out to the switching of cities, right? And having going to Albany. The analogy I would use is like, your hometown bar, that there's that one person that like goes around trying to pick up on everybody. And at some point
Oh gosh.
you run out of options of people you're trying to pick up,
Next on
right?
over.
Yep. And finally, like nobody wants you anymore. And so it's like I don't know if this community funded prize purse is a long-term sign of success, right?
Mhm.
Is that indicative of proper management of the sport and something that's going to be successful long term?
It's a really interesting question. I mean, yeah, and it's something I've thought about too, is just the lack of a title sponsor. And so let's just say that they did have a title sponsor this year. Should they be using like, what does the open money then get used for? Like,
Mhm.
does it get used for any prize purse money whatsoever, or are we now funding other things?
And yeah, and to double down on that, right? Whereas the open registration used to go entirely to the overall budget of the sports season. A significant portion of that, 50% of that, is now going to the prize purse that was covered.
Mhm.
So where is that money coming from that's getting pulled back in other avenues, right?
Well, they're not funding any events in semifinals. I mean, that's a huge savings. They're not paying for
Yeah,
any of that.
yeah, to the
So,
tune of $6 million if there's 300,000 people or whatever.
yeah.
I mean, it seems like this is a mad dash to like plug holes in the hole.
Yeah, but there is also an argument to make that this is this is the most sustainable way, because their expenses are based on what they bring in, and they're not going to exceed that.
That was the theory back in 2019, and right when all the cuts happened. Everyone was told, and we were told, that they're making cuts because they want to make the games more cost efficient. And then CrossFit spent more money than they ever had on a season than in years past.
All right. Well, so Lauren, you got anything to add to that? Like, you have any feelings about this? And we kind of
Uh, the open being tied to registration,
you
and
mean,
this could be me
prize purse being tried to
or the
register?
prize purses, yes, yes. This could absolutely be me projecting how I was brought up, but it reminds me a lot of Catholic guilt.
Okay.
It is like that is the
Go
gut
on.
reaction that I get just because it's like, "Oh, I wanna see these athletes succeed. I want to see more money in their pockets. I want to see them get a big payday." So it's one of those things that in my mind, like if I'm on the fence of signing up for the open or not, and I'm like, oh, I'm feeling bad or guilty that if I sit here and say the athletes should be paid more, the athletes should be professionalized and treated like in all of these ways, but then I don't sign up for like it just makes me feel like Catholic guilt if I don't do it. And I I
But the
don't like
children.
that.
Think of the children. Pay your
Yeah, it's
10%. Don't forget your tithings.
That's hard for me, and even when I look at, like, the breakdown based on this great article that, Mike Halpin's contributing to for, Morning Chalk Up, I'm okay with more money being towards the top, and I'm even somewhat okay with the middle. The thing that bothers me is 21 through 30. You are considered a CrossFit Games athlete, and you're gonna be in the red between all the expenses, the registration, and you're not gonna make anything to be a CrossFit Games athlete. The past 2 years when they finally started paying everybody out, that was such a win that the athletes, managers, media, coaches were getting behind and like, "Wow, look, this is a great instance of growth for the sport from
Well,
CrossFit LLC." And now to go back to not pay all of your athletes, it just it's unfortunate. It seems like a step back, and I know a lot of things have happened. There's a lot of variables that play a part, and not having a title sponsor is part of that equation, but it just man, you went to the CrossFit Games and competed and got that far, and you're losing money.
Well, it also makes it difficult for being an athlete and pursuing the title of fittest on earth sustainable for a long time unless you become elite very, very quickly, right?
Mm,
And most, other sports that have some semblance of professionalism and want to be able to be successful long term, you have to make it viable for people to stay in the sport
Mm.
to develop and grow because not everyone's going to be that phenom that gets to that spot immediately.
Yeah.
We've been lucky that we get to see these these some of these athletes shot out of a cannon in some ways, but that's not always going to be the case. There are going to be the people that slowly work their way up. Like it reminds me in many ways of how the UFC was, in its early stages. UFC pay is still a hot topic of discussion for some, but most fighters on the roster now earn significantly more across the board than what they did. Whereas before, it was like, do you have a title belt? If not, you're getting paid peanuts, and it's going to be really hard for you to to live and become a fighter. And is that a good way to keep the talent pool refreshed to be able to make this sport happen long term? And once the financials of the USC getting its TV deals and everything like that getting bigger, it was able to start supporting that and putting that money down. If you lose the middle and bottom and it becomes a rotating door, then does that really genuinely support the pursuit of finding the fittest, right? If people that could potentially contend or develop into that or actually push the ball forward from a development standpoint in the sport can't stick around long enough to see the fruits of their labor, or they have to take other jobs and do other things that would otherwise prevent them from focusing on maximizing their potential. Like both of those, I think, inhibit the ultimate like purity of trying to find the fittest, to
Yeah.
some extent. It's not the biggest thing, but it does. I do think it makes it makes some issues potentially much bigger in the long term, and
Oh,
that's just tough to see, right?
mhm.
Because we know athletes across the board that are like that have perennially 10th to 20th, and on any given competition, any given day, they're one of the fittest people on the planet. But they can't feed their families on this pursuit that requires so much. And part of that's like pie in the sky type stuff, right? It's like, but we do want this to become something that's more than just like a hobby, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think just put a bow on it. This system is more sustainable because they're not going to outspend what they're bringing in. You would
We
hope.
hope. We
Yeah.
hope.
You hope. Fingers crossed. Um, and there are other opportunities out there for athletes to make money, which is a segue into the next thing we want to talk about, and that is the World Fitness Project. We talked about them last week, and I think it was like the very next day they went ahead and released their the events and their dates. So their first event is going to be May 9th through 11th. It's going to be in Indianapolis, Indiana. Their second event will be August 29th through 31st. So that'll be after the games. It will be in Mesa, Arizona, in Phoenix. Ooh, that's going to be warm. And then in December, late December, December 18th through the 21st, Copenhagen, Denmark. Those are the finals. So there are opportunities here for athletes to make money. There's only really one event that interferes with the game season, and everything else is after.
Mhm.
And one thing that I really like, and I think this is the lesson that has been been learned by I think a lot of people after watching the semifinals the past couple of years that take place over in Europe and the Rogue Invitational is that if you want a good, energetic crowd, you're going to get it over in Europe just because they don't have the opportunities to see these athletes that we have in North America. And I think you saw it on display in the semifinals the past couple of years. Like those were by far the best crowds, and you saw it at the Rogue Invitational. That was a fantastic atmosphere, and I think these event organizers are learning that hey, there's something over there that we need to tap into. So I give the World Fitness Project credit for looking at Denmark and being like, let's go overseas and have our final event because that's not going outside your borders in your first season is not easy to do. So credit to them for swinging for the fences on that one because I think that's a smart move. And of course, you got World in your name. That was a lot of things we heard from people. Like, we got World in your name. You can't just have events in North America. Well, they're not. They're not only having events outside North America, they're having their championship in Europe, and I think it's a great move.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this in our Q&A last week, but the locations make a lot of sense in terms of scaling, right? In like the Phoenix, Mesa, Scottsdale, greater area, it's a massive area now, but that is a left justified as far as like North America event, right? In a place that the organizers I know, the people involved I know are very familiar with like hosting events there. There's a more right justified spot in Indianapolis in North America that's northern as well compared to the more southern location in Phoenix. In Indianapolis is both cities are incredibly easy to get to. Indianapolis host of the NFL Combine. They have a cool convention center and infrastructure there downtown to be able to host those athletes. And then Copenhagen, where like the early years of the Europe Regional Baller Up Super Arena
Yeah,
in Copenhagen. That was where like the Europe region. Yeah, that's where the. I bet you haven't heard that arena
I
name in a while,
haven't.
huh?
That was
Yeah,
just seeing pictures of Madge Jacobson and Rory McKernan at the same time. Is
yeah. Too much handsome in one photo.
I know, right?
And realistically, the only, like you said, the only conflict is the French throwdown, which is that same weekend in May. But remember, that's not the French throwdown, at least as it stands, doesn't have any regional restrictions.
Mhm.
So it's not
Mhm.
like you're necessarily taking one off the table that's exclusive to European athletes. So, with the thought that, there are a handful of uh, other events like Wadland Fest, which is in Spain. I don't think there's one for the Mayhem Classic. I can't remember if they've stated that yet. And Far East Throwdown, there's still other opportunities to qualify. So,
Yeah.
and realistically, you look at the roster for World Fitness Project. Let me see one.
Well, there's 30
Trying to
people
think.
in each event. You got the 20 signed
Yeah,
athletes plus the 10, qualifiers.
Mhm.
I love that number. I think 30 is a great number for a competition.
yeah, yeah. There's like it was like 6 or 7, 8, maybe 8 tops once all the announcements are done. As far as like the athletes that are in Europe that would be eyeing those events more particularly. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's cool. I haven't seen an announcement from them yet that's been like, don't love that, or it seems like they're
Yeah.
they're not pulling driver off the tee box that's over water into a narrow fairway.
No.
They're pulling the trusty
Right.
7-iron, and they're pitching them straight
Keep it on the fairway.
for
Just
these shots.
go for par. And that's,
Yep.
to start out, don't get over your skis. Just show you can pull this off.
Yeah. Yeah.
All great
For sure.
locations.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, and I did not expect, to be honest with you, I did not expect to have the finals overseas. And I think it's a great move. I
Mhm.
Yeah.
really I think
It,
that
it also
crowd over there is fantastic.
and also because of the timing, right? It gives them more time throughout the year to develop that event,
Yeah. Yep.
right? It's almost a year from now.
Be cold though.
So,
Wow,
So
that's
I mean,
crazy to think about that.
December in Denmark, ice skate to the venue.
ooh, go to a Christmas market.
It'd be fun.
I was just gonna say it's gonna be really pretty with a lot of Christmas
Yeah.
markets and trees and decorations and all that fun stuff.
And think
Yeah,
about all the stuff get all I mean, you get the full World Fair, right? You go to Phoenix, you get you get the Sonoran like cuisine right
Mhm.
there, like just north of the border. You go to Indianapolis, go to St. Elmo's, get some of that spicy shrimp cocktail and a steak.
Yeah. Maybe Lauren can
And
find a good quesadilla in Denmark.
they go to
I'm gonna put it on
yeah,
the list.
Yeah.
go to whatever they eat in Denmark.
When in Denmark.
Yep.
Get a quesadilla.
Yeah.